come along on my adventure. I wanted to do a little journal flip with you. And as I do that, it will sort of stimulate me to show you a few new tricks and techniques and things that I added to my bag of tricks that I'm finding really helpful and kind of getting things down on paper fast. And I'll sort of take you through some adventures that I had this summer. And spoiler alert, I got to go nature journaling with Ray Bonto. More about this to come. Mind blown, absolutely amazing. Actually, I see Arpan is here. So Arpan and I, we got to go. Arpan, is it okay if I bring you on the spotlight? I'm gonna bring you on here. Hello. And you can now unmute. So yeah, we got to go nature journaling together, you, me, Ray Bonto, and stone skipping. It turns out this part of England that we're in has these massive slate quarries that make the best skipping stones. And so we did some epic, we're going to confuse some future geologists, and they'll wonder like why they're like, how did this kind of rock get transported to this other area? Like we did a lot of translocation of skipping stones. How are you doing?
Very well, Jack. I didn't expect to see you. I thought you were off today.
Oh, well, I'm back in the Bay Area, and so why not have a nature journaling session here? Yeah, it was wonderful to
hiking today. Suddenly, in the middle, we realized you had a class today.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of what you said.
Oh, I said Robonto and I went hiking on a hill today, close to London. But yeah, we realized in the middle that we had a class, but we are not sure that you are going to have the class. But great that you're having the class.
Oh, it's really good to see you, and we'll show you some sketches that we all did together, and it was really, really wonderful to meet old friends for the first time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to take you folks through my nature journal and show you. Yeah, let's just sort of take a look at some strategies and things. I ended up putting in a bunch of pencil miles. And it's interesting, you know, at whatever level you are, when you put in pencil miles and things, some things your brain starts to kind of wrap around new tasks and things. So if you're doing something that's a little bit of a challenge for you and you keep repeating it, you get better at that. And so for me, I ended up, I have not done a lot of buildings before. And so there were buildings in Europe that were really, really interesting that I got to play with. And so you'll see kind of the result of some pencil miles on those. And it makes me really want to do a deep dive into learning more about the urban sketching movement. And I know that there's a lot of inspiration out there that I want to do to explore. Maybe we can even get some of the folks who are really involved in the urban sketching movement to come on and be guests and to talk to us a little bit about their process. I think that would be fun to do, because wherever we go, there we are, whether it's trees or even in urban landscapes, we can find also wonder, mystery, and beauty. So more of this to come. Let's take a look over at, I'm going to change my microphone and my camera. There we go. Here's a nature journal. So this is a Strathmore toned paper journal. So the journal has gray paper, and if I hold it like this, hold on a second, let's see if I can get this up higher so we can get the whole book on there, or close to it. Okay. So this nature journal started in Montana at the start of this summer in June, and has just filled up. So I went there to an amazing nature journal retreat in Montana. That's going to be a regular thing, these nature journaling retreats in Montana. And the next year, I think they're meeting in Yellowstone, which should be really fun. So this is on the National Bison Range. And so we've got out there or actually it used to be the National Bison Range. It has been returned to the tribe, to the tribes up there that originally owned this land, and were the stewards of all these bison. And there's all this crazy wildlife out there. So these are pronghorn, a little female pronghorn that was close to the entrance there. And what you can see, we zoom down on her, is I'm just making a bunch as she's moving around. I'm making like here's her butt view, here's her side view, and trying to get these sort of strange patterns on her. These were not things that I was used to, so they don't have any kind of mental map in my brain of the way that the pronghorn should look. So getting these little sort of strange white spots that were all over her, I kind of made sort of a generic shape, but then really paid attention to those. I thought that was such an interesting animal. With the toned paper, anything that's white, if you put a little bit of white gouache on it, it really pops, and it's a ton of fun to do. So let me grab a little gouache kit and I'll do a little demo on that idea. So if you're using white paper, then your your white is just the white of your paper. But if you've got toned paper, then your white is something that you can add. So here's a little bit of gouache, and this is just so much fun to do with these sort of toned paper journals. Imagine that your brush is now light. Your brush is light. So I'm sunlight, and I'm hitting here on the back of the rump of this pronghorn, and it's coming down here, and then I'm going to let that kind of go into just gray paper down here because that part is in shadow. So if I put some lights in here, as you paint, your brush is going to run out of gouache, and that means that it's the amount of white will get paler, and so do the places that are most in the sun first. So this part is more in the sun, and then my brush runs out of paint as I go down, and that thing gives me a little shadow along. But see how that really pops now? That's just really fun to do. Another thing that's weird about gouache is if you watch this, I'll put down some white here, some white here. As I put the white down, as it dries, it gets increasingly transparent. And so what you first think is going to be super bright white then becomes sort of a more not as in your face bright. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. But being able to put this white on the toned paper is so much fun. Here's a mule deer backside. So I'm just going to paint some white up here. See, my brush is running out of white. And you'll enjoy doing that. Put a little bit of highlight up here on the back of this thing. You can just think of your brush now as being sunlight. So that's just a shout out to Strathmore toned paper journals. You can imagine like getting to do something like this little kingbird here. That's just big, big, big fun with the toned paper. You get a little bit of dopamine every time you get to put the white down on your paper. Let's back up here a little bit. So on the bison range, there are, of all crazy things, bison, and they're just these really, really weird shapes. So it takes me some getting used to start to wrap my brain around these shapes. I found that the approach to drawing mammals, hold on a sec, is a little dry erase board. Don't see it. So I'm going to grab a little notebook over here and do a doodle. Here I come. I think I've shown this approach to drawing mammals before. I've found it really, really useful out there because most often the bison are not in a straight profile towards you. They're in a 3/4 view position. And so when you're looking at that, what I really find it helps is to think of the bison as these 3 circles. So there's the body, and then you see a little bit of its trunk sitting out behind that, and then there's the circle of the hips behind that. So I've got essentially 3 overlapping circles. Zoom down, and then the front one has, and then the center line of that is here. The front one has this big hump on it that fans towards the back. And then the neck is going to attach into here. And the head is going to be this big massive thing out here. So thinking about these 3 overlapping circles helps me be able to draw in the body. So my front legs come down there, my back legs come down there. And you see, that's what I'm doing here to get these 3 things. So I'm thinking about, I've got this circle here that overlaps this zone here, that then here's that circle of the middle part kind of poking out there. And you say this back part isn't a circle. Yeah, it's this more angular hips. But originally my pencil lines are thinking of that as a little circle. And then that helps me block it in. So whenever I'm doing any critter in 3D, I have one, here's the second shape tucking behind that, or if I'm drawing them at an angle, and then the third part tucking around behind like that. Center line on this, your neck is going to attach in this area, depending on what kind of critter you are. Yeah. So then we'll zoom back here. If the critters are far away, then I'm getting these little thumbnail sketches here of bison. And to get these, the most important line was this line across its back, up the head, up the bump, and the line of the back. So it'd start all these with, what is that line? And then build my bison from there. The bison also liked to lay down and nap. So here's some napping bison. And for these, I had to just totally give up my brain's mental image of what a bison should be doing. Just sort of believe these weird shapes. So I think of this as sort of a study in putting a shape next to a shape next to a shape, thinking of these not so much as a bison, but what is this sort of pile of lumps doing? So at first, just lightly with my pencil, sort of block in that I've got, one big kind of more triangular shape here. There's a next to that, there's a kind of a big head shape. And then I would refine those and say like, oh, this bump here has more of a bump here, down here, and another little bump there. But I'm not so much thinking like, oh, this is the point of the shoulder where this muscle attaches. I'm just sort of believing the bumps and copying those. And then what I do is then I squint at it and just say, in this area, it's dark. In this area, it's dark. In this area, it's light. And so I'm getting shapes, number 1, lights and darks, number 2. And then that kind of builds these little sort of strange forms of napping bison. So here's more bison, and you see here this on these I'm kind of putting in where they're light and where they're dark. With this is a gray pen, and more about this pen in a moment. But you're going to find that there's a new gray pen that I've now made really good friends with that I absolutely love. One morning in Montana, I walked out and I found that a unlucky moth had been eaten by a bird or a bat and had been disassembled out in front of my house, out of the little cabin where I was staying. So I had a glue stick with me and I rubbed some glue in my journal. I glued these into it, and one of them has since fallen off. But look what it left behind. It left, because it was glued down, it left all of those scales. So I don't know if you can see here on the screen that this one here, this is actually a wing that's glued on here. This is, the wing has fallen off, and those are just the scales that were glued down to my page. So that's when I find butterfly wings that have fallen off butterflies. Not going to do this to any butterflies that still are using their wings, but if the butterfly is dead, I can glue those into my journal, and even if the wing falls off, it looks like I can get butterfly and moth scales. So that's something I didn't know before. That's a really cool little scale print. We'll zoom down on that for you, check that out. You want to make sure that whatever critter you're doing this to is not threatened or endangered, because on those sort of critters, we don't want to even have bits and parts of them in our journals, just to respect those laws. Here's more bison. And this, I wanted to show this to Susan. This, I had fun. This is the bitterroot here. It's this cool flower that has, there are some parts of its roots that are edible. And I noticed that a lot of them seem to be sort of facing south. So there's probably other people have invented this before, but for me, this was new. So I kind of had the feeling that I was kind of inventing this as I go along, but I'll bet I originally saw it someplace else. What I'm imagining is a little sphere or a dome or a glass bowl sitting right on top of the flower. And then if the flower is, say, pointing off in this direction, I would imagine from where it attaches on the ground, a little line going out to the edge of my bowl. And where that would intersect the outside of the bowl, I would draw a little dot on that bowl. So that means that if this little dot here, it was a flower that was pointing off in this direction. The closer it is to the outside edge, the more it is pointing towards the horizon. If something is a spot in the middle, that's pointing straight up. And so what I would do is I put in the orientation of these different flowers that I was finding. And I can then look at this and see that most of these are pointing in this southeast direction, which was cool. Oh, somebody's saying, is that a baby plover? Yes, this is a baby killdeer. Aww. And the baby killdeer were running around just beeping next to the road. And then they saw the parent killdeer, and the parent killdeer sort of nestled down into some grasses. And all the baby killdeer came and ran and tucked themselves underneath the adult and disappeared underneath it. And that, I've never seen that behavior happen. I've never seen that before, but I thought that was really fun. This is a beautiful orchid drawn from a couple different angles here. And I got to sit here in this meadow and, or this is at the edge of a meadow, and sketch with Fiona Galogally, who also came to this conference. So we sat there and we're just geeking out on these orchids with these cool twisty petals. And then when I first was looking at it, like, I don't know, what's a petal, what's a sepal here? And so I then just looked up the different parts and the anatomy of these later. And like, there's all these kind of cool terms, like I'm sure that Avea, you knew all these little parts already, but I didn't know, like, what is a sepal, what is a petal on all of these strange features in a labellum. I didn't know about those. So that was fun. And if you're drawing these sort of twisty things, when I was a kid, I used to like to imagine I would draw a little squiggly line, and then I would turn it into I think of it like if that were a flag, sort of flapping in the breeze, that would then be, you know, kind of twisting around like this. And so I draw these little flapping flag doodles. And I would also sometimes make these little doodles of sort of imagining one thing kind of twisting into another, these sort of little twisty, twisty doodles. And so I got to do my little twisty doodles here again. So little twisty doodle was like, I would have, there's one little thing and it's coming in and twisting here, and then the other part is coming like that. And then, so it's all twisting in the same direction. I have this as a solid line. I have this as a solid line, these cross ones that are coming across. And then this part here is tucking underneath. This one here is coming here. This one here is going to break here and reappear down there, because now this is the line that is going over on the edge that is close to me. This is the line that is coming in as close to me. Let's zoom down on that. So on my little twisty doodle, there's a line that is coming over, and here's the part that's the edge of the leaf that is close to me. So if I have sort of imagining the twisty doodle. All right, see how this edge here on this twist, this edge is the one that is close to you, and then the other ones are kind of wrapping around behind that. So there will always be your close edge, and then there's the far edge. And what I do is I make the far edge one break. And so I have this one being here, then I break it here, then this one comes over, and I get, if I put a little bit of shadow in there, then it feels like these things twisting. That's a twisty doodle, in case you have a petal or a sepal of something that is doing all sorts of fun twisting. I usually do landscape ethos. But here so here's a little landscape ethos. Here's a little landscape ethos. But I also found myself starting to do some more of these big ones. For a long time, I've been saying, like, don't do things that spread across the page. And then I found myself doing these things spreading across the page. And so this was a landscape that wasn't running away from me. But what I did is I kept it really simple. By just sort of thinking, what are the major lines here? And I'm looking for as many pieces that overlap as I can. So in a drawing like this, you'll get more of a sense of depth if pieces overlap. And so I have, you know, if I have one big piece of a mountain here, and then the next piece of the mountain is over here, and then there's something over here, I'm not going to get much of a sense of depth as if I look out in a landscape and I see that I've got one piece here, and then there's another thing that's tucking in behind this. So things that overlap each other, as much overlap as I can get in a picture, that's going to really help get a sense of depth in there. And so if there are bushes or trees in front of this, right? Then that's another little plane of overlap. So what I'm thinking about here is this little line here overlapping this, that overlaps that, that overlaps that, that overlaps that. This was also kind of a fun sunset drawing moment. And I want to show how I lied in this drawing. Right? You kind of get this sense of sunset, mountain turning purple, was more glowy in here, light on water. Sky's turning orange, sun is setting. If you have a sunset image and if you have a sunset image and you include the sun in it, it's going to be really, really hard to draw because as the sun sets, the sun starts to turn color. So there's a note here, setting sun glows rich orange. Is this rich orange? No, it's basically white gouache. Why did I draw the orange sun white? It's because I have a choice, a no-win choice that I can make. I can either try to match the color of orange, and I actually wish I put some splotches around here and tried to kind of match that color of orange. Next time I'm going to try to do that. Or I can try to get the more closer to the values, the lights and the darks. But the minute I make the sun orange, I would just, if I made the sun this rich orange color, I would have this dark orange ball here in the sky. And that is going to look really funky. Because the brightest value thing should be the sun. But if I put dark orange in here, then the sky would be darker than the sun. So I made it, I can either try to get the color or I can try to get something closer to the value. I can't get it as bright as the sun because the sun is actually, if you looked at the real sun, I'm getting blinded by it. And my white here is just as white as my white gouache. But the minute I drop color onto that, its value goes even darker than the sky. So I wanted the sun and the reflection to be brighter. And so it still kind of looks right as a picture. If you have to make a choice between value and color, I suggest going with value. And it will still kind of visually look right. If I colored this in orange, then it would look really weird. So actually, here's what I can do. I'm going to try this just as an experiment. Where can I do those little annotations? Is that only when I'm sharing a screen? Too bad, so sad, I can't do it. I thought it'd be fun to just sort of draw on this with a little marker on Zoom here on top of these. Let's see if I hit this. No, so that's not gonna work. Never mind. So what I'm saying is that if I have a choice between value and color, I'm going to pick value, and the drawing will still look right, even though this was an orange sun. But if I made this orange, it would look really cartoony if I made this really bright orange. And then I just have a note that it is orange by there on my paper. The other thing that was amazing that happened that night is this mayfly hatch. And the mayflies would land on you, and then they would crawl forward and their wings would fold down. And then it would look like their wings are gone. And then their body would start coming off whatever surface they were on and start wiggling. And then this new set of clear wings would pop out and they would leave their old skin behind. So mayflies are the only critter that after they are in their sort of final, in their adult stage, after they kind of have their adult their sort of molt into sort of the adult stage, they have another molt before they can breed. And so these were landing on all the people in our group, and this whole process would take maybe a couple of minutes. And so you could see these little things land on you and then pop out a new set of wings. And all of us were covered with hundreds of these little left behind shed bodies of these mayflies. That was really fun. So this was a good opportunity to kind of use sort of progressive drawings. This happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. If I'm thinking back on it, it would have been fun to have included a close-up of this, but I didn't. But this is just a good example of sort of how a sequential drawing can really, really help you. Boom, 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 boom. More bison, more bison. So bison, 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 bison. They're just really weird shapes, really weird shapes. Like if I would not feel comfortable sort of drawing a bison from my imagination, because I would not come up with something like this. And I also discovered that all of them have Bob Ross hair. So bison wear Bob Ross wigs. It is really, really fun. And once you kind of see that out there, you cannot unsee all these little Bob Rosses running around on the bison range. They also had different shaped horns. And so here's a couple of little front view quick diagrams just to show some of the variation in horns. So there's some of them really stuck out. There's some that were more straight, but I didn't draw that. I wish I had. I don't want to kind of go back and do it now because I might draw it wrong, different than I was actually seeing. But in the moment, there's a bunch of horn variation, and that was really fun to see. And this is all at the National Bison Range. So you see, just having a great time. With these shapes. And bison will pose for you too. So should you get yourself to a place where there are bison, you're going to love it, because it's just a weird shape and it will pose. They'll be like, I'm going to stand here in this one position for the next 20 minutes. So just you go to town. And then I came back, and what I discovered when I returned is that the celery in my refrigerator had wilted. And so this is my study of wilted celery, and it's fun to see that if you go to a place where there are bison, you can learn something new. If you go to your refrigerator, you can learn something new. So here is the celery taken out of the refrigerator, these kind of cool yellow leaves. And as I was taking these off, I found that towards the core on the inside, they were up on these little, let's zoom in on that because this is a neat little celery bit. Look at these. There are these little plugs that stick out from the middle of the celery stalk that the leaf attaches onto. And there's some sort of an abscission layer where this part breaks off easy, leaving these things behind. And then I was wondering, is there a sort of pattern to these? And some of them are paired, like these two are the same height. And so I looked at, as you kind of go from the outside to the inside, what are the lengths of these little celery bits? And that was really fun. And then I went to Greece. This is Jet Lag Jack. Flocks of swifts in the air, kind of got in all groggy on the airplane and look out the window the next morning, and there's the Acropolis, right? I've seen pictures of this thing my entire life, but there it is sitting out in front of you. This was later on at another time drawing that same view at night. They have lights that illuminate the whole thing. So I grabbed my journal and I started to kind of work my way around this, and just I want you to zoom down here, because I really had no real sense of how do I draw, my gosh, there are straight lines and things, all these kind of rules of perspective are starting to kind of happen in front of me. And then there's all of this complexity with these towns down below, all these little red roofs here. So it was this visual feast, but because I've drawn more like bison than buildings, it was initially really hard for my brain to kind of start to wrap around how do you translate these things into your journal. So, oops. The Acropolis has a museum associated with it that is one of the best museums that best archaeological museums that I've been in. It was really, really well thought out. They've had to bring a lot of the artifacts from the Acropolis indoors because the acid in the pollution that we make was dissolving all of these marble and limestone monuments. It's dissolving them in place. And so they had to take all of these features from the Acropolis and bring it into a climate controlled environment. Otherwise, they would just completely erode. And already they've got some damage from contact with the acids. It turns out limestone and marble, you expose them to acid and they break down. But so there's wonderful things inside this museum. This was a statue that goes around the outside edge of one of these buildings, and the statues are the columns that hold up the roof. And so I thought this was really kind of a cool detail. Look at how the sculptors made these big, thick hair braids. My daughters were like, "Oh, dude, that's a fishtail. I know how to do that." So this fishtail braid to make the neck thicker so that all the weight is not just on the neck part. What that does is allows you to have this part of your statue be thicker to hold up the roof. I thought that was just really, really fun. I am also in other places, I'm drawing little artifacts, doing side views. I got my measuring tape out and was measuring things, and then the guards came running over to me. They're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I said, I'm measuring these things that I'm drawing. And then they just melted. They just thought, "Oh, that's wonderful." But at first they're like, here's this, you can imagine this, person, the click, 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 click of the measuring tape. And it was different. And they were doing a great job of taking care of all the artifacts. So they ran over to make sure that I wasn't up to any bad business. But once they saw that I was nature journaling, they all just started telling me stories about their favorite artifacts. And it just opened up this wonderful conversation with them about what they loved about the museum and these little pieces of history. And they said, "Oh, if you like that, come on over here. Now, nobody sees this, but you've got to check this out." Because I was nature journaling, these conversations opened up. I'm starting to try to, let's zoom down here. I was sitting on a hillside looking out again at a different view here. And from here, my view was pretty much, I was about the same height as the walls. So I wasn't having too much of a challenge with perspective on these, because everything was just sort of straight out for me. So everything was horizontal lines. And well, the closer you get to the building, the more that you get sort of angles up and down. But kind of doing something from a distance, I wasn't having to, if you're, so again, if you're looking at an object and it's really close to you, then you're getting these crazy, perspective changes and whoa, how do you, here's this big object that is close to me. But if I'm looking at something that is further away, these distant buildings, you see these vanishing points start to move further out. And so what is the horizontal top of something becomes much more horizontal. So if you're looking out at these distant buildings and you're at the same height of them, then these buildings out here on the horizon, right? We're seeing those ones as much more, you're not seeing these big perspective blocks. So that's why something like this, because I haven't spent a lot of time understanding 2-point and 3-point and 1-point perspective, this was a little bit simpler for me to draw. I want to point out that what I am intentionally doing here is using a heavy line, boom, 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 right here along the edge of the Acropolis. And that pops this shape out from all the stuff that is behind it. So you're seeing an intentionally heavier line around the edge of that. And what that does is it says that this is the major element, pulls it into the foreground. And then these mountains here feel like they're further back. If I had drawn heavy lines on these back mountains, then that would really flatten this picture out. It's kind of an example of that. Let's just kind of go back to here. So here, look at this with all the different distance stuff with the same line weight. And what that does, yeah, overlap is working for me, but the picture is, oh, look, there is a little shed skin of a mayfly right there, a little white thing. Cool. But you see how that flattens that picture out. Here, because those back hills are have a light line on them, they feel like they are further back than those things with a heavy line. I then got up into the Acropolis and started, now I'm close to these buildings. So if I'm doing a little zoom of, here's a little zoom of this corner here, that it used to be that this part of, whoops, let's come up here. Used to be, this was the roof of the Acropolis was here, but this building has been through all sorts of crazy times. So originally, there were statues of all the Greek gods going across here, across the top of this thing. But then, when this became a Christian temple, people got up here and got crowbars and knocked out as many statues as they could, because those were false gods to them, and they got in there and they threw all these things to the ground. And then at another time in history, collectors got in here, and parts that were still in there, they would get in here and sort of chisel away parts of these things and then send them to England. The Elgin marbles, Lord Elgin was notorious for taking all of these all of these marble reliefs and sending them to the British Museum. And then also this was used as gunpowder storage at one point, and there was an explosion in here and it blew out most of this building. But still, you can see part of Dionysus sitting here chillaxing and having a good time underneath the eaves while the rest of the gods have gone by. So maybe, you know, just if you sit down and drink wine, you can survive. Right next to the chariot of the rising sun coming up here. So those are still visible. It was so much fun to be in a place with all of this history. Oh, and I'm also starting to put in little, so here I am in Athens. I'm going to be going up to Lafkos here in a little bit, but this is fun. I took a city tour, and I want to show you what my notes from that looked like. Boop, boop, boop. How do we zoom back out? So this was just with my notebook in my arm, kind of scampering around behind a tour guide who was pointing out all sorts of different features and trying to quickly get down notes about what was being said. And then later on, I kind of came back in and I circled some things that I thought were significant and worked this up. But this was trying to kind of speed note taking. And I found that this did help me pay a little bit more attention to the things which this person was sharing. And then I could go on my own and explore those things more. This brings us up into the, back up into the Acropolis. And here I'm starting to try to figure out perspective drawings, because now I'm close enough that these roofs have angles to them. All right, so I've then thinking about like, oh, like where does this come down? And what was crazy is that it's not just like a big cube that was put out there. The Greeks didn't like what was happening with the perspective of that. And so what they did is they made the Parthenon has features built into it that are essentially sort of non-Euclidean, right? The ground that it's on is arched. It's arched, so it's not on a flat surface. It's on this big arched surface. And the sides, the columns here lean in, giving you the visual impression that it is, there we go, that it is larger and more massive and more monumental than it actually is, because you're sort of feeling this perspective as you go in. So and so there are all of these sort of strange things that it kind of reminded me of these, you know, how you can go to these places that people call mystery spots, where people will kind of create a few things and give you a floor that looks like it's kind of going one way, but if you put a marble on it, it rolls the other, and they say, look, gravity is reversed here. Gravity is not reversed there, right? It's just a tourist trap. You could do it in your own house, right? And but here they were doing like all of these sort of strange sort of forced perspective things in the structure of this building. And I thought that that was just really, really beautiful and fun and elegant. And even the spacing of these, there's different spacings between these ones and the outside ones have just a little bit different spacing on them. That was cool. That was really, really, really fun to do. But you can see also what I'm doing here is I'm first coming in with I'm first blocking the shape in with a pencil like this. I'm then using a ballpoint pen to draw on top of that. And then finally, I'm coming in and picking out some of those edges and lines with a zebra pen. And that's giving you those thicker lines around there that kind of help pop some of those near shapes. You can see the same thing here. And notice by having a few of the lines, like the outside edge, this column here, with a thicker pen, it gives it just a little more pop and dimension. Oh, and this is also fun. There's scaffolding up because they're doing repair work on the Parthenon that you could see was something that was totally vertical. But when you look at that vertical compared to the side of the Parthenon, you can see that it really is arched in. That was neat to see. I was there when that horrible event happened where a boat filled with refugees sunk off of the Greek coast. Flags were at half-mast for that. So I put that in my journal as well to help remember that. It was interesting to be there at that time and to listen to people talking about what they felt about that and what the implications were and what is our responsibility to other people and what's going on with refugees worldwide. There were some really interesting discussions that I overheard among the Greek people that was our conversations that I think we need to be having more worldwide. Let's zoom back out. Just as it's starting to get on towards evening, I can do a little bit more sketching before I need to run down the mountain and join Sibel, Carolyn, and Amelia. Few last things. Notice this one doesn't have that dark pen popping lines, and it might be a little bit harder to read. There's something kind of neat and kind of graphic about the top of that you don't get here. And then the next day, we are taking a bus to another part of Greece, towards Lafkos. So I've got a seat by the window. And so these are views looking out the window as we're going along. And so this was painted as the bus is moving. The roads were straight, so I wasn't getting really swishy tummy. And I kind of had a lot of fun playing with the skies. And so what I would do is I would draw in the little landscape as a very sort of simplified landscape, and then spend most of my time just sort of playing with the skies. And what I'd like to do is just to show you folks kind of a few tricks that I was doing to make those sort of skies happen. So there's no kind of formula for doing it. So there's not like a sky drawing method, because the most important thing is to actually look at the actual sky that is happening in front of me. But I was using this really limited light value palette of gouache paint on this gray paper, and just wanted to show you a few of the things that I discovered. Thing one, this is the blue called aqua blue that I had previously had in my journal. And it's a nice light value blue. But just on a whim, I saw this, what is it, meiosis blue? And I put a little bit of that as a sidecar in my palette, thinking like, I won't really use this one that much. I like this one is going to be a more useful blue. And I discovered that this color of blue, oh, here it's really looking white on my screen. I'm seeing more blue than you are, but that's okay. That this color was really, really useful for skies. And that I could take a little bit of this one and then combine it with a little bit of this one, and they played very nicely together. And so these are Holbein gouache paints. And let me just do a quick little landscapito demo here. Imagine that you have, some hills, and there's maybe a town off in here. And there you go. And you want to draw some skies. What is a kind of a simple way of handling those skies? Let's point down here. Here's what I would do. So whatever's going on in the land, it's going to be darker than the sky. So I want the sky to be darker, so lighter. So I would often start just by taking some white gouache, and as kind of a quick start for my landscapes, I would just throw some white gouache right there on the bottom of the painting. Then I'm going to use some of this new favorite blue here, and put that in a little bit above there. And if there are, let's imagine there are, and let's see how this is all kind of blotchy up here. Something that's cool about gouache is that it just keeps moving around whenever you get it wet. So I just wipe that and it becomes smooth. But let's say there are some clouds there. So the clouds, the part of the clouds, what I would do is I'd squint at the clouds and I'd say, all right, what part of you clouds are really picking up highlights, are picking up the light of the sun? And as cumulus clouds would kind of billow up, I would often see these edges on them that were really prominent. And so what I would do is I would draw in those the edges of those clouds. So the part of the cloud that was showing the part of the cloud that was being hit by light. Let's kind of jump back there. So I would be painting this part in. Oops, hold that down. So I'm painting in this part here. Right, the top edge of that cloud. And then, but wait, there's more. Then what I would do is, or let's say there's also up above me, there's some little cloud that is kind of coming in here close to me. So I'm looking out at the underside of it. So I'm not seeing as much of, I'm not sort of seeing this distant billowy thing. It's more of a kind of diffuse thing. And then in between me and there is, I'm going to draw kind of the non-cloud in. And then two kind of last little bits in here. One is I would take a damp brush and I would tickle the underside of these clouds here. And that makes that bottom edge more gentle. So there's a kind of a crisp edge up there, and then there's more of a kind of lower gentle edge. And lastly, I would often see, as you look out at the distant horizon, there's a little bit of warmth out there. So whether that's dust that's blown up or smog or whatever it is, I'm going to just take a little bit of brown paint or orange paint and put that a little bit towards the horizon. And that does a lot to kind of make that sky feel more natural. If this wasn't the right color of blue for up here, I could tweak that by using my watercolor kit. And then I would just have these hills down below. Be whatever here I'm using more watercolor. Maybe there's some green up in them. There are these little olive groves and orchards that were everywhere. Maybe there's an olive grove over here. But that gives you these skies, these really I was sitting there kind of going like, oh, how would I handle just all that crazy cumulus? I just want to show this one more time. Check this out. Here is the top edge of this little cloud. Oh, there's that little top edge of a cloud. And I'm just trying to get a line that's kind of consistently inconsistent. And then once that's there, I just am going to wet the underside of it and smear the inside part of it. Because it's gouache, it just re-wets. And it gives you these very cloudy looking things. Now, knowing that that's what I was doing, take a look back here and you can see that was my strategy. And it didn't take that long, so I could do those from the bus window. Little studies of nesting birds. And more birds. So I've arrived in Lafkos, Greece, kind of starting to go around and meet some of my bird friends. I knew that I was going to be coming up on the equinox, and so spend a lot of time in my notebook trying to kind of geek out for myself and try to figure out how can I really understand the relationship between the sun's position, the tilt of the earth, and then how to kind of reconstruct for myself. It'd been a while since we had done our equinox sessions together, so I needed to kind of relearn a bunch of that stuff. Evening study here, looking from the place I was staying out over the sea, these beams of light streaming down. That's just gouache strips over dry watercolor. Gouache allows you to put things over others. Exploring spiders, exploring little mysteries, going for a walk in the morning, and then finding my way through these little Greek village. And this is where I think I really need to start talking about this pen. because I want to introduce you to my new little friend. Hold on a second. Let's get it out. So you see, like here's a little sketch of this statue. There's a little shadow on it. Oh, that's neat. How'd you do that? Here's this little study of a olive oil urn. There's these little shadows on it. That's interesting. Here's a little street scene in Lafkos. And you've got the sunlit parts of things. And so the values in this are that there's some gouache in the sky. There's the color of the paper. And then there is this little shadow, the same kind of little shadow as you're seeing here, the same little shadow that you're seeing in these kind of quick notes as I was kind of running around here. And what is this little pen? I have for a long time, I've been using these Tombow pens. I still love Tombows, but Kate Rudder showed this one to me, and it is the Mild Ink Midliner. It's a gray pen with a chisel tip on one side. On the other side, it's got this fine tip. And what's interesting about it is that if I make some marks with it, let's zoom down on that. Even when I overlap things, it doesn't get that much darker. So here I've overlapped these here. That little part in the middle there is not really significantly darker. So essentially it's good for making an area that is going to be one color. And it's a middle gray. And so let's say I have, you know, there's some urn sitting there. There's this olive oil. Urn. Let's see, where is this pen? And there's a kitty cat. There were cats everywhere. Greece is a very cat-friendly place. And there's a little cat, and it's hanging out next to this little urn. And it has little cat ears. All right. So here is a these were big. These were big. Folks like their olive oil. So if I were doing maybe something with this where it was just where I just was doing things with pen, I would stop here. And I'm thinking like to do this as a watercolor, then I'd have to kind of, there's a whole other kind of layer of kind of getting stuff out. And how can I sort of turn this into just sort of something that's a little bit more volume really quickly and really easily? That's where this little midliner comes in. And I would just look at where is the sort of the line of the sunlight. So the sunlight, I'm seeing it kind of hit the upper edges of this. Up here, the sunlight's coming and it's hitting the back of this cat. Okay. And then I would say, all right. And I have volume really, really fast. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to do kind of a quick fast forward here and just sort of find, a number of places where this pen is, where I'm deployed. I don't have a lot of time in a place. I want to kind of quickly get something down. Here is using that pen on that. Here's a little bridge. It's that pen. Here's a beetle. Zoom down on that beetle. Right? It's that pen. Just a few little boom, 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 boom. The beetle has volume. And so it's like, insta volume on a drawing. And what I'm often doing is just kind of going, where are things in light? Where are things in shadow? And that's cool, right? So let's zoom down on this. And that's all that little pen. But it's fast. It's really, really fast. Let's back out here. Here's some cityscapes. The same pen. You can see I just start kind of going, I really like this pen. And so this is just that pen with a little bit of gouache in the sky. More of that pen. It goes from being an urn to an urn with volume. Here is being up on the top of a 13th century fort with the pen. And it's just really fast. Here's a 400 BCE helmet with a little bit of a pen. So there's more. Here's a little street scene with the pen. And what's fun about that is it just takes, this is going caving with the pen. Another time we meet, I'll kind of go through some of these other sketches and drawings. Oh, there is Carolyn's favorite stuffed animal. That's Fruit Bat with the pen. Right? So I can, this goes all the way to being in England. Let's see if there's more with the pen. Yeah. So here is fast forward to being at Beatrix Potter's house with Ray Bonto. And that's that pen. And so you notice that it's not giving you like the Tombow does, where it gives you then the next darkest value and the next darkest value when you kind of overlap those more. This is really feeling kind of it's either gray or this mid-tone of gray. But that makes it a little bit easier to use, but I cannot get the same value range with it. So I'll take you through some of these other drawings, slowly at another time, but this is just an initial look at sort of the start of these adventures. And maybe so that people can join us another time, I'll kind of continue to do this page flip and show you some of the ideas that I've kind of picked up from it. But I'm kind of developing a new bag of tricks. The gouache on toned paper, all these light values in the sky. Oh, here's another thing. This little kind of peachy color, I'm finding I use everywhere. And that is one of my, where did my little gouache kit go? Little gouache kit, where are you? Where are you, my friend? Oh, I can't find my gouache kit. I'm going to revise and revisit a whole workshop on the light value gouache kit, because I've got some new colors that I'm finding are very, very useful. And that's just, it's a lot of fun. So what I would like to do now, kitty cat, I'm going to change my camera back. I am going to change this back, and that is sort of a start of some of the new things that I figured out and learned from doing this. And oh, I see Ray Bontos here. It's great to see you again. So let's jump over to our just sort of conversation time. Anybody have any thoughts, comments, or ideas from looking at these some of these new strategies and approaches? I'm going to go over to my gallery. You can raise your hand or use the raise hand function. And I would love to see what you're thinking about, or what's been happening in your journal.
I will say that there's been a lot of conversation in the chat, questions, observations, a lot of enjoyment of what you've been sharing. So that's really awesome.
Excellent.
There's been questions about, like, if you have white paper instead of toned paper, then what to do with the clouds. And questions about the paper weight of your journal, and the kind of, and which exact kind of Strathmore you're using.
It might say on the inside of this book, it says, oh, it just says Strathmore. Wait. No, it's not telling me the weight of the paper in here, but it is just, it's a Strathmore toned paper book. Do they have different weights in their toned paper sketchbooks? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I have a couple of ones right here, one with 48 pages and one with 128. So I'm not sure if those.
Oh, which one has more pages in it?
This one has more pages. 80 pounds, so 118 GM square.
I think that's probably what I'm using.
Okay, I'll write the stats in the chat.
Yeah. And so yeah, they both can handle watercolor, but if the more that you put down on the page, the wobblier your pages get on the 81, and if you are putting down a lot of water, you can also then get some bleed through with this 80 pound. So I found a few places. Let's see if I can find a place where I kind of overworked the paper and got a little bit of a little bit of things coming smiling through to the other side. It's always, you guys just have to take my word for it that it happens. And this is more for where there's one other, where is that little gouache kit? If you are using this gray paper and you are using gouache, where did that little gouache kit go? Oh, here. So one of the ones in my little gouache kit is gray. And I used to be using Holbein gray number 2. And because it was kind of close to the color of this gray of this paper. So I could kind of use it as whiteout. But I discovered that Winsor & Newton gouache, gray number 3, is an even closer match. So now I have Winsor & Newton gray number 3 in there. And that is, and that is, that's fun. So I highly recommend Winsor & Newton gray number 3. Hold on a second, I'm trying to get part of my kit back together. Been refilling it before the Sierra trip because that new color blue, I blew through it out there. But yeah, so there's some gray number 3 in there. Can you list the colors in your little gouache kit? Do you assemble individually or buy a set? So this is a Winsor & Newton Pocket Sketchers box for watercolor that I have repurposed. Yep, you got it. So this little Pocket Sketchers box, I squeezed stuff into here from tubes, but kind of getting them to stick and to not crack. There's sort of an art to it. Because I've got a whole bunch of new colors that I'm now recommending from the last time I kind of did something on setting up one of these little kits. I think I should probably redo one of those. And I don't remember the names of all these colors, but essentially I'm trying to get the lightest value colors that I can. So a bunch of really light value colors. But I will soon have, coming soon to a Thursday workshop near you, I'll have another little workshop on kind of putting one of these together with my new recommendations for my, awesome. And so, here's the list that is on there is no longer my best, my top choices. So I'm going to have to revise that. For instance, I see Holbein gray number 2 and gray number 1 is on there. I now only have Winsor & Newton gray number 3, and this new little blue. It starts with an M, like meiosis, something blue that starts with the letter M. It's a short word. I forget what that is, but like that one, I've discovered like I love this color. So some of those. So those are some of the changes. One of the problems with kind of continuing to kind of play with stuff is as I get exposed to new paints and things, my preferences and ideas change. Like I had one way that I drew birds and wrote a whole book saying, here's how I draw birds, and then changed some of the fundamentals of that system. And so what do? I guess I want to just keep you guys updated with those things. And I will have some books out eventually with more of those. But the yes, my myosotis, MYOSOTIS. That's the blue. All right, that's my new little friend. Say hello to my little friend. It is a lovely little pale blue color. And so what I'm doing with this gouache kit is I only have light value things in it. So like, why don't you have a darker blue? Because I use watercolor for that. Because anything that is light, I can then put in with gouache on top of a darker background. And anytime I want to get something darker, watercolor is really good at getting things darker, but watercolor is not so good at getting things lighter. That's why I only have the light value stuff. So Helen says, can we have that workshop sooner rather than later? Going on some nature journaling tricks. Yes, let's do that soon. Maybe I'll have that be one of my next upcoming workshops. Unless I get there and somebody also shows up and says, like, you invited me to be here today. All right. But Helen, any idea what the peachy? Let's find out. Like, I'm not going to hold you guys in suspense. This won't be like you have to tune back in. I'm going to go get my little peachy friend and see what its name is. All right, here, Gouache. There are some really nice light colored gouaches. Oh, here it is. It's pale coral. Pale coral. Holbein. So that pale coral is that nice little peachy thing. There are some others that are really nice light value things, but they have cadmium in them. So I'm trying to create cadmium-free kits. So I advise people just to sort of, as you are able to, if you have been using cadmium yellows and things, when you kind of run out of those, don't replace them with more cadmium. Or you can go out and get some, other colors today, but I'm trying to, in these kits, just sort of avoid having really nasty carcinogens in and around my house and on my little, sock puppet sleeve and things like that. Does anybody want to ask any questions live? You can just raise your hand. You can drop them into the chat if you're feeling shy. I think used to be before I left, everybody would ask their questions live, but we might just be shy now because we've been away from each other for a while, but we don't bite. There's let's see. And so are there any other questions, or did anybody want to share something that's been happening in your journal?
If nobody else likes to, I'd love to share.
I would love to see what you have been up to. Let's bring in the mad botanist. Hey there.
Hey there. It's good to see you again.
It's really good to be back.
So most of my summer has been mostly getting ready for the Sierra trip, and I can't find my Sierra journal, what I did with it yet, but I've been trying to draw maps and prime myself. And a thing that I've been considering is, by doing a bit of pre-research, am I actually like sort of biasing myself against whatever new data I might take in the field, or am I giving myself prematurely that done feeling? And what I figured for myself is that if I'm priming myself and it creates more questions, then I'm going to go for it. And so some of the things I've been doing are, you have those moments where you're looking forward to a trip and you're too excited to wait. So a thing I was doing was making questions in advance, just for funsies. So I've got to maybe copy those over to my Sierra book. And because I don't know like I know I've been to the Sierra before, but I don't know exactly where everything is in proximity to each other. So I was putting down where everything is, not trying to be very precise with my art, just like circle this, circle this, circle this, so that way they're kind of going down. And then I was writing down places that I know I've been before and trying to figure out where exactly they were. Had a little realization when I was a kid. My school used to take these snow trips over to this place called the Claire Tappan or Claire Tappan
Claire
Lodge.
Tappan Lodge, yeah.
You know it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We used to go out to the Claire Tappan Lodge, and so I've been there 3 times with school, and it was lovely. But during the second trip I took there, I was going on the cross country skiing with the older kids, and I wound up falling behind because I got too cold. And I was having trouble moving. And luckily, a teacher stayed back with me, but the snow was going really, really heavy, and it took me a long time to get back. And by the time I was back, all of the other kids had already changed out of their gear and were sipping hot cocoa and having a good time. And I remember my dad scolding me because I couldn't take off my suit because my hands were too cold. And then he realized how miserable I actually was. And so the fun, sorry, what now?
You had hypothermia.
Yeah, that's what it seems like when I look back at that. I probably had the beginning stages of hypothermia. So that had happened. And I'm like, oh, that was a bit scary. And separately, I'd been thinking about the story about the Donner Party and how, unfortunate they were. And I'd been thinking, oh goodness, it must have been in some cold, isolated, lonely place in the Sierra. So I'm doing my research, and I find out that the Claire Tappan Lodge is actually on Donner Road. Not far away. And I'm like, so my impression, my mental image of what the Donner Party were suffering as being like some lonely, isolated place. And I'm thinking back to my experience of hypothermia, and I'm like, I was right. It was that lonely and miserable and freezing cold.
Yes.
So that was kind of funny, but maybe I shouldn't have joked about that in front of my son. He was like, no, Mom, I don't want you. He's like, don't go on the Sierra trip because I don't want you to get eaten. And I'm like, I'm not going to get eaten. It's okay. I'm not going to get eaten, my love. Anyway, so sorry, all of that to say that it was fun looking at this. It's fun asking questions. After our time with Nina Sokolov, I think I already showed my butterflies. I don't know if I showed the part where I went back and I added.
Oh, no, I haven't seen these.
Oh, cool. I went back and
What fun. And are these ones that are in your area?
To my knowledge, yeah. These are ones that can be found in the Presidio, and I'm trying to teach myself these so that I can keep my eyes open for them. And so this isn't true to the picture, the plants you see in the background. It's a visual cue for myself, because the Ackman blue, its host plant for it's larvae caterpillars, etc. One of them is the coastal buckwheat. So I deliberately painted one in behind it so that way I could quickly associate these two. And then same with the ceanothus, etc. So I painted each of them on their host plants. And so then, like 2 days ago, I was out watching some yellow jackets saw off meat and take it back to their nest, and happened to see a little blue butterfly. And then it happened to be on a ceanothus leaf, and it didn't have the markings of any of the others. So I'm thinking it was an echo blue. But that was just really neat to have.
That's really fun. That's really fun.
To have
that. The also having the color in the back allows you to show that beautiful white trim along the edge of the wing. Are you using gel pen, or are you leaving white spaces in another way?
I'm trying my best to leave white spaces. And because I am naturally not the cleanest drawer and I wind up smudging things accidentally, I will add highlights of gel in there to make certain parts whiter if possible. So I'm thinking that actually from this angle, it looks like I added maybe a teeny tiny bit of pencil in here too. But that way it's not all uniformly white. It has a little bit of a tint so that in inner it's a little bit darker than the outsides. So a combination of gel pen and trying my best to reserve the whites.
The texture here is also really fun.
Thank you. It was
and aren't the stems, or I don't know the official word of the stem of the antenna on blues delightful?
The stripes. I love the little stripes. They're so cute.
Yeah. Mm.
And then they're so floofy. They're just
So
so
floofy. So and yeah, the textures here are remarkable too. The way you're kind of getting a sense of the texture of the coastal buckwheat, a sense of the texture of the floof of the butterfly, a sense of the texture of the flat surface with the veins. The textures are really popping here.
Thank you so much. This is all thanks to you teaching us about gouache. This was
That was gouache in there.
Yeah, with the floof. Watercolor darks and gouache light values to make it stick. Had to do a couple of applications, but it worked. So that's thanks to you.
That's some floof working for us.
And so then I was trying to duplicate the efforts on, okay, yeah, just trying, this isn't done yet, but this is going to be a visual joke for anybody who watches Miraculous Ladybug. This one's going to be a privet hawk moth. Then this one is going to be a peacock moth, and this one's going to be a monarch, because the villain likes to name himself after Lepidoptera. Might have already shown these. This one was kind of fun to do because the butterfly has wings that are this torn up. And so I wanted to study, maybe that's why that, but like why that is. This is at the Academy of Sciences in their rainforest exhibit. And so this was one of the ones. It's a magnificent owl butterfly. And this is one of the very few without the torn up wings. And so I noticed that most of the magnificent owl butterflies have these torn up wings. And meanwhile, the morphos don't. And I was wondering why that would be. So I've got questions about that. I wound up having to draw these from picture instead of live, unfortunately, but it was still really, really fun to do because I'm trying to figure out a faster way to do this in the field. And then this was another one that was hanging out and around. So I've got questions, I've got theories about why this is, but I'm trying to not prejudice myself, and I'm trying to maybe go back again and observe a little bit more and see if I can spot any other animal interactions, see if I can spot differences in behavior, see just what I can see. So there's hopefully a lot of different, possibilities. See here, attempt at landscape litho at my work, writing down all of the bees in the Presidio for funsies.
No, that's really cool. The list making is such a good idea.
Thank you. So this was fun. It was in prep for Nina's class. And so then writing down the different kinds of bees so I could begin to learn about the different orders of bees. Lots of fun just to geek out about this. Again, priming myself so I'll notice things. I hadn't finished painting them yet, but I decided to try to draw some of the bees in their floof because I want to know them apart. And sometimes the best way to know them is to draw them.
Yeah. And you have been putting in some crazy pencil miles here.
Thank you.
And these bees are just walking off your page. Oh, Avea, way to show up for your journal.
Thank you. Bee eyes, surprisingly difficult. You wouldn't expect them to be, but they really are. Quick little
what do bee eyes do? What have you noticed about bee eyes?
That they have, it's hard to explain, but it sort of reminds me of, if you've ever seen those, okay, now I'm not remembering any sorts of names. It's like one of those mantis shrimps, and the ways that their eyes have the weird pattern where it's like one part of it is a bit darker than the others, but then there's like these other weird line patterns, and it's not just simple compound eyes where you almost feel like you can see little, I don't even know what shapes those are, hexagons or something. It's like a combination of sun visors, but like these weird lines. You know what? My homework for myself is going to be to come up with some vocabulary to describe what I'm seeing.
Yeah, they're kind of hologram-like.
Thank you. That was it.
Does that feel right to me? They feel like you're like, and then if you have one and you move the bee back and forth, where you see all those little weird dark patterns, they move.
Yeah, exactly. I think hologram's a perfect way, and then like the way that the shine works and the way that the colors aren't where you expect. It's like,
yeah,
what's going on with you?
Yeah, and in my Sierra Nevada field guide, I've got some. One of the things I've learned is that I had done all these drawings from dead insects, And surprise, surprise, a bunch of insects, their eye color changes at death. So a number of my insects have dead eyes. Ooh, the dead lights.
Oh, God. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm going to be curious to look through and see now. Similarly, this one bug person I was hanging out with, Trisha Nichols, the one who does the Insectopia nights on YouTube Thursday nights, she was saying that there's a whole bunch of fireflies that are within this one museum in Philadelphia, and they can no longer identify them because the only way they could was when they were alive and by their flash patterns. And so they are forever unidentifiable because they're dead and they were not observed when they were alive enough.
Oh, that is.
I got excited about that.
So cool.
I'm like, so cool. I agree with you. I was excited. I was like, that means that it's the value of being alive to observe these animals. But then she was unhappy. And then last but not least,
also, isn't it interesting when you kind of then get up to them, they're morphologically so similar that we haven't been able to figure out like, oh, this one's got 6 hairs on its tarsus and this one has 3. And like none of that business is going on with them. So, but they still have been, their flash pattern is such a powerful isolating mechanism that we've got different little beasties. That's crazy.
And then I have these from what is it called? Teachers Workshop that we had, the educators workshop, when we were supposed to go out and do something in the field. Instead, I just went to my room and was studying my pitcher plants.
You've got little pitcher plants with cups?
I do, in my room. It's a huge one.
Ooh. How long have you had it?
I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think maybe 2 years at this point, maybe more. And I can't believe my plant's still alive. Like usually they die at some point. And then I got a couple of new plants. In fact, maybe in a moment when somebody else is sharing, I'll bring it out so that I can share it again at the end. But my plant has gotten huge because I've been taking care of the water. I put the plant in my room because there's more flies, and the pitchers have begun opening now that, and I've got questions about why they open. Is it because I gave them more water, or is it because the flies did something to them? Because I remember this one time a couple of years ago, I think, where the pitcher plant hadn't been opening pitchers, and flies began landing on it over a period of time and would do this weird thing where they'd like stroke the leaves. And I thought it was weird. And I'm like, what are you doing to my plant? And one of the leaves formed these little bumps all over it. And then the pitchers began to form and open properly. So I don't know any answers here. And I don't know if that was just a coincidence, but I'd be curious to see if fly interactions actually compel the plant to make more pitchers, just for funsies.
Oh, that is a fun question. And I'm guessing, oh, nice Y-Web. I'm guessing that is, and dot line method.
Oh yeah, learning your counting.
Yeah, dot line method. Mm-hmm.
And then doing a pun because I knew you'd like that.
This is so much fun.
Thank you. And then I'll try to be fast because I've been sharing for a while now.
This is really fun. This is fun to get into your brain here.
Akshi's Bug Day party. Talking about how things are formed with the buggies. Let's see here. Watching, like I mentioned, watching my supervisor, who's a rare plant specialist, I'm in the Presidio, make a fire and then writing down how he did it. Thank you, Michael Chassé. And then of course, getting an actual little burn from the fire from it. And then last but not least, watching my cat and other contenders hunting a really, really huge sarcophagid fly in my room and trying to figure out who was going to win. The child with a lot of quarters who likes throwing things at flies, my hunting cat, the spiders with their webs, my pitcher plant, and my very new friend Snappy, the Venus flytrap. And then asking questions about, like, seeing that Snappy already had a fly, so then still hungry, seeing about how Jason's head moves around as he tracks. Some of the things about movement, like he mostly sits and waits, but then there are certain things where he attempts to go or he attempts to swat. And I'm thinking about energy. And then where the fly likes to land the most, for some reason up on this one particular corner of the room. And so drawing some of Jason's postures. So you don't have to go out into nature. Sometimes you can just watch and see who's going to get the fly. And then Logan made me draw him too. So I drew him. And I'm going to just, stop on clouds.
Oh, fun. What?
Okay.
Oh, hey, you have been putting in crazy miles and also crazy thinking. I love kind of like this idea of how, who's going to get the fly, what are their strategies, kind of what a playful, thoughtful way of kind of stitching experiences together and investigating that on the page. Just as an idea for something to do. That is, I love the thinking that is going behind that.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me share the things that are exciting me, even if it's as small as a sarcophagus fly and seeing who's going to catch them. By the way, the fly was not caught that night, but the fly managed to make it over here to the window just next to me. And last I saw, Jason had cornered the fly down in some area and then the buzzing stopped. So my cat won.
Oh. Well, we're assuming that the cat won.
Oh, good point. Because I didn't actually witness the fly or the fly's dead body. That's a good point. Thank you for reminding me not to assume.
What fun. What fun. And I'm glad no quarters were thrown through your window.
I'm glad too.
That's great.
Thank you.
Wow. It's so much fun when you look through other people's journals, you get so many ideas about ways to play and investigate and do things. Does anybody else have any journal adventures that they could share with us to inspire? You can use the raise hand function, or you can look at the gallery here. See if anybody's raising their little paw. Oh, Ray Bonto wants to see the Highland cows. Should we do a Highland cow, a coo share? Yeah, all right. So Ray Bonto and I went out and we spent quality time with coos, Highland coos. How much fun is that? The cutest, coolest, most awesome cows anywhere. I've got a new favorite kind of cow, and they are the Highland coos. I'm going to bring you on here, Ray Bonto. Hey, you're live. And oh, you can now unmute. Had you seen coos before?
I don't think so.
I mean,
I saw some new stuff on the page. I saw the old version of it.
Yeah. So they've got the sort of wonderful hairdo, kind of like this. Yes, there you go. There it is. Now, friends, you've just seen a Highland coo.
Enough.
Yeah, should we do a coo share?
Why not?
Why not? These were so much fun and just totally these wild looking things, and they were just totally relaxed and calm and just being the coos that they are. All right, let's see what you've got.
No, after you.
Oh, after me. Okay. I will bring me back. I'm going to add me to the spotlight, and let's see here. Let me change my camera, and it was fun to be there with you because I was working on my little kind of slow little cows, and then look over, and your page was filled with coos. So I'll first make this big, and then let's see here. Hold on a second. We're going to. I'll bring you back on in just a moment. Coos. Oh, look, here's some coos. So they have this wonderful hair that comes down. They're super shaggy, and this wonderful hair that covers their eyes. This one had kind of a part and then this little dew here, this one here, just, and there's variable horn shapes, just like bison. So some had straighter, some had curvy. Oh, they were so much fun. And so here's a little coup sample. This was just lying on the ground. And so there's a little bit of coup-ness. Here's some other coups. And yeah, these were just out kind of doing coup things. But it was really cool to see them. Yeah, so there's got a couple of pages of coups. May we see your coups?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what's going on with your. See, this is what I was talking about, folks. Like Ray Bonto just had a page filled with coup. All right, and just going cuckoo for it.
And here's the one. That was the one we went on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And the Thursday one is somewhere here. Yeah.
Ah, yes. Getting in close, that 3/4 view, back view on your left hand page. Just you know, that one's walking right off the page. That's really cool. Weren't those just the and they have these sort of strange little blunt faces. So some of you may be looking at these and kind of going like, no, you didn't make the head the right shape. They should be kind of longer faced. But this is really what those little, maybe move the journal down just a little bit. Yeah, see that one up there in the corner, top right-hand corner from your screen view? They have these little strange round little coup faces. The oddest things. Really cute. My daughters wish we had, my daughter is sort of making, they are so cute. Yeah. That's really fun. And look at these also views with them, so, down head munching, eating, just sort of getting their coup on. And they had these sort of, and look at that tail. You're saying like, no, that tail looks like a little bit more like a horse, but no, they had those little hairy, thick tails like that. These were just really strange things. We can't make this stuff up. That's really cool. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, the first day that we were kind of out there, we were out sketching with some folks, and we didn't know that the coups were just behind this next fence. And then we went up higher on the mountain, and then we were surrounded by all these coups. And then the other day, which we went to look for them, we had to really hike more to go see those coups. But they were really accommodating.
Yeah, and then all the kids were asking, "Where did you find those?"
Yeah, that was fun. And I found that big kind of clump of coup fur, and I put it on like a hat, and then started later on thinking to myself,
"Can I show the photo?"
Oh, sure. But later on, I was thinking like, to what degree do coup ectoparasites transfer to humans? And that would, but it's worth it because how often do you wear such a coup hat? I'm gonna remove my spotlight here. Okay.
Wait, I need to reduce the. Yeah.
Isn't that a good look? It's like a full-on coup toupee. Yeah, that's all coup hair. It's a good look. It's a good look.
Yeah.
I think everybody's going to be wearing those. It was so much fun to get a chance to hang out with you and to go around and journal with you. Do you want to share any other sketches that we did from that time together?
Okay. Hey, why don't we have a side-by-side show?
Okay, we'll do. Let me bring up. We'll do side by side here. Boom. All right, so we had. Should we start with that the adventure by the out to the waterfall?
Yeah, on Sunday.
All right, so we started in the rain. Now the Lake District, turns out they do a lot of rain. That's why there are lakes there in that district. But that also meant these really cool black slugs.
Oh yeah, the slugs.
Yeah, there we go. That is fun. That's fun. And tell us about the how on earth question.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, we went to this cave, and there was this tree growing on the side of the rock, and it was growing like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering how it grew up there because there was hardly any soil.
Yeah, I had a little sketch of that tree. Yeah, it was this weird tree kind of going out of there. And then we had all those spiders in the cave.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to sketch this really.
And you did some. Do you want to share the sketch that you did by the river?
Oh, this one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, beautiful kind of brook that that came down past us there. Mm.
It's by the gold mine of Skipping Stone.
Oh, yeah, so that was near where we had, let's see. You know, I can't believe that I don't have sketches of our skipping stones. That's a real oversight, isn't it?
yeah.
Then we made our way up to that waterfall. So, there was a waterfall that was off the kind of off the path, and you had to kind of do a little bit of scramble around the side there, but kind of cut through this narrow little gorge. And there was an upper cascade that kind of came down to this lower one. That was fun.
Yeah.
There was an art installation inside a what looked to be kind of a cattle pen made out of these stone walls. So that rather than fences, people would build these stone walls. But someone had created these really kind of highly intricate patterns and circles on the inner walls of this thing that couldn't be for any functional thing. And I think it was just to be beautiful. There was an old telephone booth, or there was a TARDIS that we found. There was a TARDIS that had been converted into an automatic external defibrillator station in this one little town. So this old phone booth had been turned into this place where if anybody had a heart attack in town, somebody could run out, grab the defibrillator from this station, and bring it back. And would also at that point alert the emergency services that somebody was having a heart attack. These defibrillators are incredible tools that are such super powerful life-saving devices. Yeah, it was that was kind of cool. And then this was the tomb of Wordsworth. So there's a little churchyard with a yew tree shading this stone. There's a little family plot. Oh, there we go. And then we went sketching at Dove Cottage, Wordsworth's home there. Did you do any sketching around there?
I think I did. Wait.
We also did some poetry writing there. It was fun to be in Wordsworth's backyard.
There were these flowers, and there were the same bugs that we saw on in the Wednesday University garden.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were mating.
Oh, yes. With those ones with the little dark tips on the ends. Yeah. And then I wrote a little, tried my hand at writing a poem in Wordsworth's garden. Fun to be in a place that other people have been journaling and exploring and writing and thinking about kind of connection with place. You know, time goes on and we human beings aren't that different.
Oh yeah, you weren't there, Jack, but we went to Cathedral Caves.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. So here you were going caving. That's right. Oh, look at the size of how big a human is. And I love also being able to look out the door of that cave and sort of see out there. And tell us your thoughts about that little plant that you saw.
Oh, I was wondering how it grew, because in the picture it looks like the light is falling on it, but it was under shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So deep inside this cave, there was a green plant growing that somehow didn't get the memo that it needed sunlight and was just perfectly happy being there. Oh, that's fun. So here's a skipping stone.
Yes.
There's a those slate rocks were just incredible skipping stones. There was a Neolithic rock art site, and also a place where we found European badger tracks.
Oh
So,
yeah. Wait, was it on Wednesday?
what was that? That was yes. So yeah, that was I think that's right.
Oh yeah.
So that was up in that place where the coups were.
Yeah. There's our landscape.
Oh, what fun. What fun. That
This is also on Wednesday.
that was pen and ink.
Yeah, Posca.
Mm-hmm. And then on the other page there, there's that strange tree, a really, really old ash tree that had this strange It had a bunch of weird kind of growth things on it, didn't it? That were also kind of
Yeah.
eked out with that.
Oh no, this wasn't that one. This was on Wednesday.
Ah, okay.
I've got that one here.
Oh, love it. And then the zooming in on the texture of that strange lichen that was around it. That's fun. That's really fun.
Oh yeah. And then this was Wordsworth. Oh no, Beatrix Potters.
Oh, yes, Beatrix Potter's house. So what you could, at Beatrix Potter's house, you could see all these angles where she sat in her garden and painted scenes that were were shown in her books.
Yeah.
So if you got your head in the right place, you can figure out where she must have been sitting because this object lines up with that object, and figure out exactly where Beatrix Potter was sitting to draw, the scene out of Jemima Puddle Duck.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And yeah, you line up the gate with the house, and like, yep, she had to have her head here, which meant that she was sitting in a chair as she was painting this picture. That was really fun. That was really fun.
Mm.
And I checked this watering can. There was not a rabbit inside it. Yeah. And then check this out. When I got home, Ray Bonto, I want to show you what the potato did. Ready?
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, man. That was a busy potato. All those crazy sprouts. So I've
How did
just,
that happen in a few hours?
oh no, that was when I was on the entire trip. So that's what it did. That's what it did this summer. And when I got back home to San Mateo, this is what the potato that was left in the pantry in the dark had done. And what's interesting is all those sprouts are going up away from it. And it was in the dark, which means that they're not going towards sunlight. I wonder if they have kind of a way of detecting up and down, some sort of sort of gravity detector. Was it geotrophism or reverse geotrophism? That's really fun. That's what my potato did. And then that's the last page in the book. So filled up a sketchbook there. It was really fun to be out there and have a chance to journal with you too. Yeah. Somebody was asking about how much time we spent on pages like these. So what would you say for those Beatrix Potter ones? How long were we?
We were sitting in the garden. We were drawing the house for about 1 hour or half an hour.
Yeah, that's probably about an hour we were there.
Yeah.
And then went around to a different view. So the yeah, there were yeah, I'd say take about an hour. And then so there's a question about sort of how much time does it take to do one of these things. So I'd say for a potato, I was probably playing with that potato for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And we're probably about there for an hour. And there's a watering can that was maybe 10 minutes. So
And also,
like, what about for say one of those? How long does it take for one of your for one coup?
For me, it would be about 5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah, you should. It was really cool to watch Ray Bonto at work. Like just like look up, then look up, like no stop and overthink it. Just look, go, look, go, look, go. It was strong work. What about sort of for some of the other pieces that you've done? What are can you give folks kind of a time?
This one I lost track of all time, but it was roughly
That's the
how long
flow
we were
state.
sitting on Thursday in the spot.
Yeah. Well, that is one problem with kind of estimating time, is that once we get into a flow state, our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex down regulates, gets less blood flow, and then you are that is where your brain keeps track of time, and so you totally lose track of time. I'm loving the contrast here.
This guy, I
What-
can't say because I thought we were there. The whole trip took only 10 minutes, but it was 4 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
a
I
flow
can't.
state working for you. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I can't say really.
Yeah, that's really fun. Well, it's great to see you again, and I look
Yeah.
forward to the next time we are in the field together.
Yeah.
We will make that happen. We'll make that happen. We don't know when yet, but we'll make that happen. So I'd love to bring Avea back on. Let's see what your little plant friend is doing. Had you into the spotlight here. Oh, wow.
So this is my, well, first I'll show you my one here that is a little bit smaller so I can put it down properly and then properly spin the other one around. But this here is Snappy, my what is it called here? Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
I'm not really as used to Venus flytraps. This will be only like my second attempt to have one. I'm usually used to the sundews and my my pitcher plant friend here. So you can see sort of the entire size. This one has a bit that's trying to grow out like a vine. And initially when that began to get made, I'd read somewhere that you can try to separate them, but I was worried about accidentally killing it. And so what that is that people, well, I know that I used to mistakenly think of these as being like maybe a fruit or a flower because of the really cool exotic look to them,
Yeah.
but it's not. This is actually an extension of the leaf. So it's really that this is a two-part leaf. Upper part of leaf.
I'm gonna make my screen smaller here to make that big. Wow, that is a cool leaf.
Yep. And so what I do sometimes is if I want to have fun, then, I mean, all of it is fun, but if I really want to have fun, and I'm going to try not to blind anybody's eyes, I'll put my flashlight on my phone up to this and I'll see exactly how many flies are inside.
So you're getting flies in these.
Oh yeah. I don't know if you can see very well, but there are flies and you can see fly bodies in there. My hands are shaking a bit, but
Wow.
hopefully I'm not blinding anybody. But yeah, sorry.
That's a really cool thing to do.
I wonder if I can get a better look at another one of them. So it looks like some of my leaves are dying a little bit here, but the good news is that it's produced a lot of babies. So there's a lot of things sprouting up. So it's not all just from one area. It's just that they sprout a lot from kind of, I guess, a main mass. So that's been kind of nice. There's some that are still closed. I'm going to try to do this proper. So let me see here. Right here, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So this one right here is still closed. You can see the way that the lid is still on. And so when they're ready, then they open up, like what you can see with, there we go, with this one. So the lid opens up after a while. And then you have to make sure that you're watering it enough because it needs to fill up with the digestive enzyme within, so that way it can begin to lure the flies in and catch them. I've noticed that one of the smaller ones up here has even more. that I wish I could find.
Do you need any special kind of water, distilled water, or just regular tap water work okay for this?
Good question. It's got to be distilled. So currently what I'm feeding them is a bunch of rainwater that I saved up from last rainy season. I just put them into bottles and saved them up, and it looks a bit grimy, but the plants seem really happy with it. Especially because some of the stores don't sell as much distilled water anymore, and I don't know the process of making it myself. I need to learn that. I think it'd be a cool thing to learn how to distill my own water. It's because a lot of the waters that we get are either they have the chlorine and whatever in it from the sink, or is it fluoride? I'm not sure what the chemical is, but there is some kind of chemical that's in the tap water. And then if you're getting bottled water, then they add minerals for taste. And these plants do not like the mineral for taste. So it's got to be distilled, or it's got to be rainwater. Another thing is that if you're getting this from a store and you're worried that you don't have enough flies yet, hold on. They give you these little nitrogen pellets, and you're supposed to put one into a pitcher when it first opens. This one hasn't needed that because it's gotten so many flies at this point.
Oh.
But that's kind of fun. And so it's kind of interesting to look at different strategies. So the pitcher plant has these lovely, pitchers that kind of catch things. Meanwhile, you have something like if I can just grab this carefully. You have a sundew. Now this one needs enough water because it's got to create, you can sort of see it if I put it against my shirt.
Yeah.
You can see the little hairs, and each of those has little bits of dew on them. And so you know that your plant has enough water if it has that dew. If it doesn't, then you need to give it some more water. And what they do is that they tend to go for the smaller flies, at least that I've seen. Probably can't see it very well, but like there's one right where my finger, okay, yeah, I have to be careful how I do this because it's dripping. And I don't want it to drip on my keyboard. Okay, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to show it very well, but there are little tiny dead flies all over it.
Wow. Oh, that's really, really fun.
They call it dramatic because when
Dramatic.
you get a fly, then they move their leaves, and they just get, it's funny. It's like they have opinions. It almost feels like, I mean, they don't. Jason, you're not allowed to eat that.
Feed me, Seymour. I'm hungry.
And then with the what is it called? Venus flytraps, they'll close, of course, once they have a fly in here. And it's hard to see, but there are these tiny little hairs on the inside of the taco. I wish I could show you this.
Inside of the taco.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but if I aim, like if I put it at this angle, then you can sort of see the hairs in this one, but it's really hard to show. And so the flies will, my cat is attempting to prey on my plant. Sorry, Jason, but I need this one. And so what can happen is that the plant, like when the flies crawl over those hairs, then I guess that there's a certain rhythm that tells the plant that this is a prey, and then it will close. But a thing that I've heard is that if the plant has enough food, or if the plant is overstimulated, then the plant will not respond. And so, and I tested that one day by putting the plant in an area with a ton of flies and watched and filmed the flies crawling all over the tacos and not getting caught. And so I wondered if that was because it was overstimulated or had enough nitrogen already, or what. And so yeah.
What great alternate hypotheses. That's really cool. And I'm never going to look at a fly trap again. From now on, there are always going to be tacos in my brain.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky.
For you and for I. Yep. Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks for letting me share. I could talk forever.
We should have do a workshop sometime on drawing some of these carnivorous plants, where you could put up one of your, Jen says, hi, kitty botanist, where we could put up one of your plants and draw from it. That might be really fun.
That'd be super fun. And if we wanted to, while we're drawing them, we could even compare like prey catching strategies, because they might have similar needs to eat, insect prey, but they have different ways of getting it. And to my recollection, some of them are from completely different families and completely different orders. So,
and then from nutrient poor areas,
Yep.
So if you're in an area where there's not a lot of nutrients, you got to get your own from your snacks. So they're not getting energy from these. They're getting their energy like a respectable plant should from the chloroplast, the chlorophyll in their tissues, but they get all their nutrients from these little bugs and things. So that's really cool. Yeah, let's conspire on that, Ivea, and see if we can have one where we can also, that gives us a motivation to learn more about the backstories of these sorts of things. If people wanted to buy carnivorous plants, is there an ethical way to do that?
Check out your distributor first. Definitely check out and learn as much as you can about the store first. There's a particular place that I buy from called California Carnivorous, and I believe that they cultivate the plants themselves as opposed to going out and getting them from the wild. I also am careful because I know that the plants that are there's certain areas in the United States where the plants are a bit more endangered because their ecosystem's a bit more. So for example, no matter where I see it, I'm probably never going to buy a Darlingtonia californica, which is a, I think it's called cobra plant, or cobra lily or something like that, because I know that yes. And that one is a really cool one too. But unless I know for a fact that somebody cultivated from seed and didn't take it from the wild, there's no way I'm ever going to buy it if I know it comes from an endangered ecosystem, is my opinion. But to be fair, I need to do more research. And if any of you out there have research, please teach me, because I want to learn more. I don't think I'm an expert. I think I need to learn more. So, but I would love to do a session with you where we can draw and geek out about carnivorous plants.
Yeah. No, there's a Darlingtonia bog near the field campus.
I heard. I'm excited.
So on this trip, we're not planning to go there, but maybe on our way home, we might have to. It would be kind of a longer drive, but that it is like, if the San Francisco Bay Area is here, the field campus is here. If you go one particular route, it might be possible to stop by a Darlingtonia bog.
I want to go. Please tell me your plans. I want to go.
We'll scheme together.
I would love that. And before I forget, I also want to say, seeing you and Rebonto sharing your journey together was magic, because the two of you are two of my biggest inspirations in both like doing your pencil miles and chill, getting excited about your nature journals, and just plain being awesome people. And knowing that you two got together in the field, I'm like, that must have been magic. And so thank you for sharing that magic.
I was when I knew that Ray Bonta was coming, I was sitting in the little pub or the restaurant outside this hotel, and was just going and then it was delightful. It was really wonderful to have an opportunity to do that. I felt really lucky. All right. Let's see. I think that because it is now 2.5 hours into this 1 hour class, we should probably bring it to a close. But I wanted to thank everybody for being here. Wanted to thank you, Ray Bonto, for nature journaling with me. Arpan, shout out to you. Ivea, I love doing these with you, and look forward to more of these adventures to come. And the next time I see you, we will be in the mountains. All right. For friends who are not going to be joining us there, we will come back with some great stories. And want to encourage everybody to kind of just get your nature journaling on. It is so much fun. It's so much fun. This is your brain on paper. And any place you go, from your refrigerator looking at wilted celery to a potato that has decided to sprout over the summer, to a Highland coo. I want to encourage you to just have fun on paper, and we really look forward to seeing you again. Any last thoughts, Ivea?
Just what you said. We're so happy to see you all back again. We missed you. Looking forward to another wonderful year of nature journaling ahead with you. And thank you, Jack. Thank you so much. We really missed you. So it's good to see you again.
You too. All right. Be well, be kind, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh yeah. Actually, you're like if you put your hand down on the bottom of the screen.
Oh, like this?
Yep, there we go. Something like that. Kind of made an oval, but